Hi, I'm Simon Newman, the CEO of the Online Dating and Discovery Association. We work with dating apps to help create safe, trustworthy, and positive experiences when dating online. With Valentine's Day just around the corner, we thought it would be a great time to tell you about what our members have been doing to help you stay safe when looking for that special someone online. We're delighted to be joined today by Anna from LoveSaid, an organisation dedicated to combating romance fraud. They're doing amazing work to prevent fraud, support victims, and empower stakeholders working to improve outcomes in this space. Anna, great to have you online today.
Thank you for having me. It's always a pleasure, especially coming up to Valentine's Day.
Got a few questions to ask you. I'm going to start by asking about Valentine's Day itself. It's the day of romance. It puts dating front and center for an awful lot of people. Why is this moment such an important one to be talking about online dating safety?
It's incredibly important because as human beings, we all have that little bit of hope inside us. And whatever experiences we've had in the past, there comes a time where we always want to look for connection. The way that life works today means that online dating is our main way to go and make those connections for finding somebody else, whether that's friends or whether it's a romantic connection. Our criminal friends are very aware that this time of year happens the same time every year. They will be prepared for an influx of new profiles and ready to pounce on anyone they can. So it's really important that we get people prepared so they can make the most of the experience when they go online rather than being scared of it.
And your organisation, you speak to people who've had very real and often incredibly upsetting experiences with online dating. Are there any common patterns or early warning signs that you see again and again?
Absolutely. And we could list a whole lot of things. Unfortunately, profiles aren't necessarily going to be as easy to spot now because with AI the way that it is, things like ChatGPT can create the best highlight of someone to draw other people in. But one thing that we can always hold on to is how we feel when we are starting to communicate with someone. This is that mysterious thing that's going on inside our bodies, but it always happens when we make a connection with someone where it clicks. In a healthy relationship, that will evolve over time, whereas this kind of connection will be impactful, intense, and quick. So, whatever the intent behind that feeling that you're getting, it's not going to be a good one. So, I'd say leave those behind and wait for something to feel more comfortable.
Great advice. Just thinking as you're talking there, we often hear about is that a lot of people think that scams or catfishing just won't happen to them. What are the things that catch people out? It strikes me that, as we've just talked about, the criminals are getting much more sophisticated. And I guess the point is that everyone is vulnerable. But are there behaviours that people might dismiss as just a bit odd that turn out to be really serious red flags? Are there early indicators that you can share with people?
Yeah, there absolutely can be. But unfortunately, for us as humans, we have all these biases that kick in. If we're in that state, we all know about the honeymoon period of a relationship. We get that dopamine spike in our bodies, and it's fantastic. When we get in a relationship like this with an abuser or an online criminal that are purposefully creating this really intense environment, that spikes even higher. And it's important to understand that we talk about rose tinted glasses. When we're at that point, we're literally blind to those odd behaviors, even if they don't quite make sense. And we might recognize them. People often used to say to me, did you not get any idea, any little red flags that something was wrong? And what did I do? I blamed myself and questioned myself over feeling paranoid about something that didn't make sense. There's so many different biases, like authority bias, where online criminals use professions that garner trust, like military and doctors. And we tend, because we've been conditioned to trust, to accept that that kind of profession has an authority about it and we should trust them. So we ignore any bad feelings that might come our way. We also have confirmation biases. If they agree with things we say, we feel more comfortable and we'll put aside things that don't feel quite right. We will pull on the things that do feel good and push away things that don't. It's only in hindsight when we look back that we remember those things that were actually quite big warning signs. And we'll go, oh my God. You can see them when you're out of it. You won't see them when you're in it. And letting someone on the outside have a little check in and what do they think about that as well? Because then they haven't got all of those hormones and chemicals and biases that make you ignore it.
Brilliant. Something I just want to pick up on, Anna, was this point about digital footprint that we leave. Most of us live online. Is there any advice you give to people about what sort of information they share online?
That was something that was really bad for me. I hate having my photo taken, and I've about 3 that I was just about okay with. And I had that across all my social media profiles and on my dating profile. So a reverse search would easily lead back, even though I didn't have my surname on my profile. Be really careful and mindful of what you've got in the background of your photographs. I've seen some online where, with guys particularly, they've taken photos outside their really lovely new van for work, but on the signage it's got names and phone numbers. That's really dangerous. It tells them where you are, phone numbers, everything else. I had some books in the background behind me on my settee that would have given someone the type of books that I like. That's something they can pull on as well as part of, oh, they're like, I really, really love historical fiction. What's your favourite? And you go, oh my God, you like the same as me. That's so nice. I thought because I'd made my profile completely private, that that would also be private. I hadn't realised that was public on my profile because I'd set it up as private. You've got to be really mindful of that. People don't realise that profile pictures on social media remain there the whole time.
And I think that's a great bit of advice. The ODDA has produced some helpful tips to help consumers when they're going onto dating apps. One of those is, of course, get to know the person, not just a profile. Why is that distinction so important in the real world?
If we want to know the true person behind that profile, we need to see the actions rather than just the words. We need to make sure that there is a connection online first. It's really important to keep that connection online for a while. You can still get to know the person behind that profile before you come off the platform.
One of the other top tips that we talk about is about staying on the app. Certainly at first, where you're having that initial communication and talking to one another and finding a bit more about each other. What are the potential risks that people need to be aware of?
There's a reason they want you off the app, and it normally happens fairly quickly. We're talking about between 24, 48 hours, a maximum of about 5 days, because they know that there's a higher risk of their profiles being removed. And if that profile is removed, they've automatically lost that connection. They also know that if they're sending out mass messages, which abusers and criminals alike will do, the algorithms are going to start picking up that mass messages are being sent out. When you come off of the app, they move you to somewhere that's fully encrypted, that can't be accessed. And that's where the risk starts to increase, because anything that they then do is going to go undetected by the platform. You've also increased the risk by handing over your personal data. And although it might not seem a big thing, that just a phone number can be circulated through many different criminal organisations and platforms, that information can get sold. It wouldn't be necessarily just the same type of fraud that attempts to contact you. It could be lots of cold calls through the telephone. Any spam things that start coming in, you'll see an increase. It's really important. All apps have the ability to text or chat. Some even have video calls on the apps. There's no reason to hand over your contact info, because the pain that it is when you've had that number for 20 odd years and everyone that you know knows it, to suddenly have to get rid of it to stop the risk, it's just not worth it.
And as you say, they will then sell that data and get good money from it. So yeah, something really cautious to be.
It's almost that first little test, isn't it? It's part of the first coercion and manipulation. Are they going to do as I've said, or are they going to cause me a problem? It really is like the first little test.
Just as simple as that, isn't it?
Yeah. My question to you is, From the ODDA's perspective, how are dating apps building safer environments that support these kinds of behaviours, like staying on the app? I just touched on it briefly, but what other things are there that are either in place or in the pipeline?
There's quite a bit of work that's been going on over the last few years, and dating apps invested quite heavily in broader trust and safety, both in terms of technology and human intervention. Right at the beginning of the journey, there's more work now in confirming the individual user. Some apps are bringing in identity verification. We've now got age assurance as part of the Online Safety Act requirements, which is being rolled out across our sector and others. So there's more in the way of verification at the onboarding process. And then once someone's through that process and they're on the app, there are various things like content moderation that can take the form of both AI content moderation, which effectively looks for inappropriate images. If non-consensual images are being sent or inappropriate images, they can be highlighted, detected, removed very quickly, and the user having their account blocked. We're also getting better in terms of information sharing. So if we know that there is a fraudster, we've got details about them, whether that's a profile or even an IP address, we can automatically block those individuals. And I think over the next 6 months to a year, we'll start to see more of that as we start sharing more details of what these apps are doing. I spent much of my career working in counter fraud and dealing with cyber victims. I've been really impressed with the commitment the sector is making to tackle this particular area. There's always room for improvement, always opportunities to do more, but the fact that everyone's coming together saying, actually, let's work together on this. The one area where I think this gap is about cross-sector information sharing. Fraudsters aren't just targeting our sector, they're targeting social media, customers of banks and any other online platform, including shopping. But we're probably not brilliant at getting everyone around the table to share that data freely. We've written to the government about recently to say these are the levers that government need to press to bring everyone together to make a proper joined up effort in tackling fraud. Because if we can do it like that, we're going to make the UK one of the safest places in the world to both work and be online. And that's really our goal.
We're only going to move forwards with clarity and reality to make sure we can make it as safe as possible.
And a question back to you, Anna. We've so far been talking quite a lot about some of the really scary things, and we don't want to scare people off dating apps. As you said, it's where an increasing number of people now go online to meet other people and have fantastic relationships, and there are lots of really good news stories about it. How do you strike the right balance then between awareness and empowerment?
I think there's always going to be that little bit of a transition period because we're only just starting to see effective awareness messaging coming up within the apps. When I was first on the dating apps, there was nothing. Even though I had partly a great experience and then a really awful experience, I'm still an advocate. And it is a balance. But I think when users have got used to those safety measures and know how to use them, it doesn't kill the romance, it's protecting it. And that's going to be what comes out of it in the end. It is empowering when you know how to use those safety tools, when the awareness is there, you give yourself permission to use those safety tools without feeling bad about it. It's going to work and it'll be empowering. Knowledge is power at the end of the day. Feeling confident to use that means it's going to support your decisions rather than scare you away from them.
Yeah, we often talk about having informed customers. So people who are aware, but they feel empowered and make the most of their experiences online. Crucial. I think that's the key aim of what we're trying to do by getting the balance right there as well. You talked about reporting, which is a really important part of this as well. So understandably, human nature, people perhaps are a little bit reluctant or concerned about reporting or setting boundaries, don't want to come across as rude, maybe paranoid or overreacting. I mean, what's your advice to someone who's concerned about things like that?
This was such an amazing question. And I wanted to go away and write some points because I think there is so many things that we don't want to miss with that. And it can get a little bit heavy, especially where women are concerned. Women for a long time have been very much socially conditioned to be agreeable. And the thought of challenging, questioning and setting boundaries can be really quite scary for a lot of people. I think it's good that we give ourselves permission to keep ourselves safe. For individuals, different things will feel worse to one than others. That doesn't mean that yours is disproportionate. It's proportionate to how you feel as an individual. And reporting shouldn't feel that you're telling tales on people. It's about keeping other people safe. Even if it might feel like a little thing to you, Those reporting tools are there to build a bigger picture. It doesn't mean that profile might necessarily get taken down straight away, particularly if it's not an online fraudster. As human beings, we feel those things that feel off. And if you're having that conversation with someone and something doesn't feel quite right, or they ask for something inappropriate, reporting it is going to help the dating platform to build that bigger picture on that profile.
And that's ultimately what we want, isn't it? People
Yeah.
using those dating apps to be really confident in getting the very best out of them so they can have great fun and hopefully meet the right person on there.
And it's also, look at it in a different way. You might be doing someone a favor because they think their behavior is actually okay. Is it my turn now?
It's your turn now.
There's been a lot of work behind the scenes by the dating apps to improve reporting tools. Absolutely. I've seen huge things. What changes should people be aware of that maybe didn't exist a few years ago, especially where reporting is concerned?
Visibility of reporting is much greater than it has been previously, which is really positive. In terms of other changes, and perhaps coming back to that point about the use of technology, and particularly artificial intelligence, as we're starting to understand how it can be used, we know criminals are also using it in creating deep fakes, and that's affecting everything online. A lot of dating apps have embraced that technology and are using it really, really well. So, whether that's being used as a way of detecting fake profiles or identifying potentially content that is inappropriate in some way, that's getting better. The AI is improving all the time and it's getting quicker, which is fantastic. And that gives you another degree of reassurance that there's technology behind a lot of these processes. And I think over the next few years, as the technology gets better, we'll see more of that.
It's taking in the responses and reactions of victims where things have gone wrong that allow those processes to improve, and it's the only way it will improve. So how does reporting suspicious behaviour help?
In terms of the benefits to the wider community, the crucial thing is that it helps us understand a bit more about the types of people who are committing this type of behaviour. And that as a way of whether it's a trend or there are specific examples, that often is shared amongst other dating apps. How can we iron out these types of behaviour? What interventions can we put in place? Offering guidance and support to make sure they communicate with others in an appropriate way, all the way through to banning someone and making sure we don't allow them on any form of dating app. We can pick that up by human and AI content moderation, but we need users to use that report facility more frequently to tell us what's going on. And that's ultimately what's making it safer for consumers out there. I think we're starting to see some really good results as a consequence of that, and that will continue in the years to come and help us design much stronger and safer apps that keep people safe.
Yeah, that's amazing. There's definitely been a jump. When I go and pull the apps up and have a little snoop through, I've definitely seen a change. So there's definitely something working there.
Definitely.
ODDA encourages people to look out for the members page. What does that badge actually represent in practical terms for someone that's using it? What can they take from seeing that they're going to get better than one without?
Sure. The main thing for us is when we're approached by a dating company who wants to join the ODDA, it isn't just as simple as signing up and you're in. We actually carry out a fairly extensive amount of due diligence on the organisation. As well as looking at the individuals behind the app, we'll also look at the processes, the policies they have in place, commitments, for example, around trust and safety, how they demonstrate how their policies are brought to life as well. We may ask to see some examples of that in practice. We carry out quite a lot of work beforehand. That gives us a degree of confidence that the people that we have as the ODDA have absolutely got the right processes in place to keep people safe online. And that's something we ask all of our prospective members to go through. We also have a set of standards, which we're currently in the process of reviewing, and that will be a piece of work over the next few months. These are standards that we feel, working in conjunction with the industry and elsewhere, are really what sets our members apart from everyone else, which is really important. So again, what we would say to consumers is if you see an ODDA member badge, that is our trust mark for the sector. And we want consumers to be looking out for that proactively. On our website, in our consumer section, you can search the name of a dating app to see if it is a member of the ODDA.
And where is that badge found to show that they are a member of the ODDA?
It depends, but we will always ask them to put it on their website if they have a website and on the app, so it's displayed prominently as well. It varies from app to app where it's displayed. We give them a degree of flexibility in how they do that. But as I said, a person about to look and wondering which dating apps to go on, a good place to start is the consumer part of our website, where you can search and be reassured that the apps follow those standards. Do have a look out for it.
I'm going to go and have a scout now. on the
Yeah,
app.
go and see if you can find it. For people who have had a negative or upsetting online dating experience, what would you want them to know before they consider dating again?
Don't be defeated. I think that's one of the first things to think about. We need to educate ourselves. I think awareness and education is key. There's got to be a collaboration between users, platforms, and further to give people the sense of being able to use those platforms the way they should be used. It shouldn't be down to individuals or organisations to deal with everything by themselves. Go in with more open eyes than you might have before. If something does go wrong, we use those reporting tools so we can help disrupt any further problems. It's going to take everyone's effort. Never be deterred from it. Dating platforms are great. Looking ahead. So, how do you see it continue to evolve? What do you think is going to be put in place to make things even safer for users in the future?
Yeah, so there's two things. You're right to touch on technology. I think, as we've made reference to so far during our chat, technology is getting better all the time. And I think that's going to be a key cornerstone of protecting people going forward. But let's not lose sight of the incredibly important role that humans can play in that as well. Most dating apps that we speak to haven't lost sight of that. The other thing we need to look at is the role of legislation. We've seen the Online Safety Act in the UK, the Australian Online Dating Safety Code. There's a lot of legislation coming up in the European Union. The Digital Services Act has already been passed, the Digital Fairness Act forthcoming, and in the US as well, moves to implement age assurance and other forms of verification. So legislation is driving a lot of change. I think we'll see a lot more focus on trust and safety as we go forward, which is right. I think what I want the sector to be is absolutely the forefront. So when people say, where's the safest place to be online? It's either online dating or social discovery. That's our goal as a trade body.
That's all we can ask for, isn't it? Keep moving forward and keeping up with everything that's happening.
Well, Anna, our time is up. It's been absolutely fantastic, as always, to have an in-depth conversation with yourself today on some really, really important topics. And of course, as we get closer to Valentine's Day, it's an opportunity to wish everyone happy and safe dating. And of course, don't forget to look at the ODDA website. We've got a really big section on our consumer page, all about tips for making sure that your dating is as safe and responsible as possible. So thank you once again, Anna. Looking forward to speaking to you and working with you over the next year.
Andrew, thank you so much for having me and have a great Valentine's Day.
Thank you.